Before we begin, I cannot emphasize enough that these are just rumors, speculation, theory. Take all of this with a grain of salt. Nothing's been confirmed, and I personally don't know how to feel about this theory, but it's worth speculating about, I suppose. So, yeah, let's just dive right into the story. As you know, Xbox and Microsoft recently purchased Bethesda and parent company ZeniMax for a whopping $7.5 billion. They acquired a bunch of new studios and a bunch of new franchises, including Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Starfield, which are from Bethesda Game Studios, among many others. And now people are speculating, what's next for Microsoft? Are they going to stop there, or are they planning to acquire even more studios? Well, this is a question that was answered when Satya Nadella was interviewed by CNET. In regards to the Bethesda acquisition, he said, "You can't wake up one day and say, let me build a game studio. The idea of having content is so we can reach larger communities." And then CNET adds, "That's why Microsoft will consider buying even more video game companies in the future," he said, and why it continues to invest in its Xbox Game Pass subscription service. So, just like that, Microsoft has said that, yes, Bethesda's acquisition was a hefty sum of money, but we aren't done. We are thinking about acquiring more. And so this has got fans speculating about which company Microsoft might purchase next for their Xbox endeavors. And a really popular theory right now is that Microsoft's next acquisition might be Sega. So here's a tweet that kind of compiles some of the theories that are out there right now. So let's click on this image and start with this tweet published by the official Sega Twitter page back in September 18th, 2020, so a couple days ago. The translation is, when you go to the door to the top of the good sales support, this is a good place on a desk. They were photographed in a sharp way. Good sales support, a dame in what? Okay, this translation, I don't know what this translation is, but more important is the image itself. So here's the lady right here, and a lot of people notice that she is making an X sign with her arm in front of a box. X box. So you see what's going on there? Now, this by itself, it's whatever. But then you start to consider that Microsoft, alongside just a white and black color scheme for their Series X controller, they also announced a blue controller with a white highlight that they're calling Shock Blue. And these colors are very much representative of Sonic. You can see right here, white gloves, white eyes with blue all around. It's got that very similar color scheme. And in that same tweet that Microsoft announced the Shock Blue controller, they posted clean and simple, still iconic, and people noted that if you take the S here and the Onic here, it forms the word Sonic. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, this could just be a coincidence. Why do you think Microsoft and Xbox are playing mind games and dropping hints? Well, recall that before Series S was announced, there was the whole story about how Phil Spencer had the Series S inside one of the bookshelves behind him, and nobody noticed until after the Series S was announced, when Microsoft and Xbox pointed this out. And then more recently, Xbox Game Pass has been dropping hints. So this is a tweet from September 23rd, so yesterday, that reads, "Melissa said not to drop hints, so we're not dropping hints. There are absolutely no hints in the screenshot. Don't bother looking for them. There are none." And attached is this image of an email talking about, lo and behold, Redacted is coming to the service very soon. And people notice that if you change the contrast there of that screenshot, you'll find a message that reads, "The Slayer is coming." So Microsoft has been playing kind of Easter egg hunt with us. They have been dropping hints in kind of weird and meta ways. And so them hinting at a potential, at least partnership with Sega, and some people are speculating acquisition with this, still iconic Sonic, and then the Shock Blue and the blue-white color scheme that matches with Sonic's character design, like that's not actually an impossibility when you consider how playful Microsoft and Xbox has been over these past few months as we lead up to the launch of Series X and S. Next up, somebody decided to compare the blue of the Shock Blue Xbox controller with the Sega logo and Sonic's color scheme, and they found that they're exactly the same shade of blue, so 0945CA. 0945CA. Now, this one is, I think, a bit more out there considering that there is various shades of blue in this photo, so I would imagine that there is a possibility of lining the blue shades with the Sega and Sonic blue, but at the same time I can see the case that the shade of blue that they've implemented for Shock Blue is close enough to Sonic's design and the Sega logo that there is a possible connection there. And last but not least, somebody pointed out that in one of the previous Xbox events, one of the Microsoft executives, one of the Microsoft and Xbox employees actually wore a Sonic the Hedgehog shirt. Now, I actually don't know where this screenshot is from. I thought it was from the Xbox showcase where they unveiled the Halo Infinite gameplay, but I scoured through that, did not find this screenshot. I don't know if this is from an older event. I don't know where this is from. If this seems familiar to any of you and you can tell me where I can find this still image, like which video this is from, let me know, just so I can gauge how recent this screenshot is of this guy wearing the Sonic shirt, in order to be able to gauge whether this is relevant to the ongoing theories. Beyond all that, 2 days ago on September 22nd, 2020, a Twitter user pointed out that Microsoft opened Series X and S pre-orders in Japan on September 25th, 2020. So tomorrow, I guess in Japan it's today, right after Sega's presentation that same day on TGS. Coincidence? Now, the TGS presentation did happen, and there was no announcement of an acquisition. And Microsoft and Xbox itself, the day prior to their presentation, they not only spotlighted the fact that they're going to be at Tokyo Game Show to show some stuff, they also noted right here on September 23rd, 2020, so yesterday, and by the way, there won't be any new acquisition news at the show. Now, it's important to note that they didn't flat out deny that they won't be acquiring Sega at some point. They just said that there won't be news of a new acquisition at Tokyo Game Show specifically. So if this crazy theory somehow turns out to be true, I mean, it's certainly plausible that it'll get announced later after Tokyo Game Show, that they're maybe still working out the details behind the scenes when it comes to this deal and acquisition. And then other factors to consider is if you look at some of Microsoft's recent announcements in partnership with Sega, well, you've got stuff like Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis being a console launch exclusive for Xbox. Phantasy Star is a Sega property, for those who don't know. And then when it comes to the Yakuza IP, which is also a Sega property, a couple days ago, 15 days ago, it was announced that Yakuza Like a Dragon would be an Xbox Series X launch game with a PS5 version to be dated in the coming weeks. So there definitely, at the very least, seems to be a close partnership happening between Microsoft and Sega. And what's being speculated is how far is that partnership going? Is it just about, these launch exclusivity deals, or is it going to go as far as a full-on acquisition on the part of Microsoft? Are they going to full out just purchase Sega? If they were to do so, Microsoft and Xbox would acquire a couple of pretty well-known IPs. Obviously, Sonic is the main one, though Sonic hasn't been all that popular or trending lately because Sonic games just haven't been that good in a very long time. There's Persona. Now, that one's a big deal. Atlus is a subsidiary of Sega, so if Microsoft were to purchase Sega, they would acquire Atlus and any IPs that they might own, so that includes Persona and Shin Megami Tensei. And then Yakuza, again, also belongs to Sega. They would acquire that. There's Bayonetta, Phantasy Star, Streets of Rage, Valkyria Chronicles, and more. As for why Microsoft would even think about acquiring Sega, well, it's important to keep in mind that Microsoft's biggest Achilles heel when it comes to their gaming and Xbox endeavors has always been Japan. Japan just doesn't care about Xbox. Xbox just sells abysmally in Japan. So by engaging in some kind of partnership with Japanese companies like Sega, or, if theories are right, even acquiring Sega, again, that's all just speculation, theorizing. But if that were to happen, it might place Xbox in a better position to be able to kind of start seeping into the Japanese market and attract Japanese audiences to the console. So that's the speculation that's out there right now in terms of the reasoning behind why Microsoft would acquire Sega of all companies. As for how true I think this theory is, I do think that these hints do mean something. I just don't know if it's quite to the extent of Microsoft fully buying out Sega. The notion of that just seems so out there to me that it's hard for me to think that that's what's happening here. I think it's more they're going to partner together in order to try to promote Xbox in Japan through, partnerships like Yakuza and Phantasy Star, console launch exclusivity, or other means that maybe they haven't announced yet. But at the same time, nobody saw Microsoft acquiring ZeniMax and Bethesda coming. So at this point, who's to say that they won't purchase Sega? I don't think it's 100% impossible. If this were to happen, though, just imagine this former rival to Nintendo, Sonic, the rival mascot to Mario, going to Microsoft and it being a first-party IP for Microsoft. How crazy would that be? That would certainly be a fascinating development. Though it is, in my opinion, based on the knowledge we have now, that a full-on acquisition, a full-on buyout seems less likely than some form of a close partnership. Well, that's just my take. I'd love to hear what your speculation is on this matter in the comments below. Do you think Microsoft will full-on buy out Sega at some point down the line, or do you think that this speculation has just gotten out of hand and that we're looking too much into things? Drop a comment, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.